Losing a spouse is one of life's most devastating experiences, one that shakes your sense of identity, security, and direction. In the midst of heartbreak, it's easy to make decisions driven by emotion rather than clarity. Many people unknowingly fall into patterns that make healing harder, not easier. That's why knowing what to say no to during this fragile time is just as important as knowing what to embrace. In this video, we'll explore 6 common mistakes to avoid after the loss of a spouse. Each one supported by real-life examples and simple, effective solutions to help you move forward with strength. 1. Isolating yourself. Don't carry grief alone. After losing a spouse, the world suddenly feels quieter, and not in a comforting way. Many people instinctively retreat into solitude, thinking that time alone will help them process the pain. But while short periods of quiet reflection can be healing, prolonged isolation often does more harm than good. Take the case of 78-year-old Walter. When his wife of 52 years passed away, he stopped answering phone calls, declined family invitations, and rarely stepped outside. He convinced himself that others wouldn't understand his grief, and being alone seemed easier. But over the following months, Walter's energy faded. His sleep became restless, his appetite declined, and every day began to blur into the next. It wasn't until a neighbor persistently invited him over for coffee that something shifted. That one conversation turned into a weekly visit, then into a habit of casual walks and small chats with friends. The pain was still there, but now it was shared, and a little lighter to carry. This story is not uncommon. Social withdrawal can feel like self-protection, but in reality, it often deepens feelings of sadness, anxiety, and even physical decline. Studies have shown that long-term isolation can weaken the immune system, increase blood pressure, and even shorten life expectancy. Human connection, no matter how small, plays a crucial role in emotional recovery. You don't have to dive back into big social events before you're ready. Instead, take small steps. Return a friend's call, sit on a park bench where people pass by, or accept a lunch invitation from someone you trust. Even just being around others without saying much can remind you that life continues and that you're not alone. It's also important not to push away the people who care about you most. Grief can make us irritable or impatient, but your loved ones may not need the perfect words. They just want to be there. Letting them in, even slowly, can offer comfort that solitude never will. If you're not ready for personal interaction, consider joining a support group or listening to others share their journeys online. Hearing someone else say, "I've felt that too," can be one of the most powerful steps toward healing. You don't have to carry your grief alone. Connection is not a cure, but it is a lifeline. 2. Don't rush into major financial decisions. When a spouse passes away, there's often a strong urge to do something, to make changes, take action, or gain some sense of control. That's why so many widows and widowers feel pressure to make big financial decisions soon after the loss. But in the fog of grief, even the most logical-sounding choices can turn into long-term regrets. Consider Margaret, a 74-year-old woman who lost her husband after 40 years of marriage. Friends and family encouraged her to sell their house, less space to maintain, lower bills, and a fresh start. Within a few months, she sold the home she had lived in for 4 decades and moved to a small apartment in another town. But once the shock faded, reality set in. She missed her neighbors, her garden, the familiar layout of the house she once shared with her husband. What had felt like a smart decision at the time now felt like a rushed mistake made under emotional pressure. Margaret's story isn't rare. After losing a spouse, many people make major financial moves, selling a home, switching investments, or giving away money to children or charities. Some are influenced by well-meaning friends, others by financial advisors, and some by their own need to fix what feels broken. But these decisions, once made, can be difficult or impossible to undo. That's why experts recommend the 1-year rule. Wait at least 12 months before making any irreversible financial changes. Give yourself time to breathe, grieve, and regain clarity before altering the financial foundation of your life. And beware of those who show up with fast solutions or high-pressure offers. Sadly, some financial predators target widows and widowers, knowing they may be vulnerable. If someone insists you act quickly, sign papers, invest in something, or move your money, pause. True financial guidance is patient and transparent, not urgent and secretive. Another common misstep is giving away money too soon. Grief often brings a strong desire to help others, children, grandchildren, churches, causes. But generosity without planning can leave you exposed later in life. Before giving, make sure your long-term needs are secure. The best decision after a loss is often no decision at all, at least not right away. Focus on stability, not change. When the time comes, seek help from a trusted financial advisor who understands not just your assets, but also the emotional journey behind them. Remember, clarity comes with time, and time is something you're allowed to take. Before we continue, if this video helped you, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need support today. Every interaction helps us keep creating content that informs and uplifts. 3. Don't hold on to everything. Make room for healing. Just like with financial decisions, the belongings your spouse left behind can feel too sacred to touch. Every item, from their favorite sweater to the mug they used every morning, holds memories. And at first, keeping everything exactly the way they left it feels like a way to keep them close. But over time, it can quietly become a weight, one that keeps you emotionally stuck in the past. Take Harold, a 76-year-old widower who left everything in place after his wife of 55 years passed. Her shoes stayed by the door. Her favorite chair remained untouched. Her closet was just as she had left it. At first, it brought comfort. But months later, Harold realized something painful. Walking through the house felt like walking through a museum of grief. He couldn't breathe in the present because everything around him was frozen in the past. Letting go of your spouse's belongings doesn't mean letting go of love. It means making space, not for forgetting, but for healing. You don't need to clear out the entire house overnight, and you certainly don't need to follow someone else's timeline. But holding on to everything out of guilt or fear may be silently preventing you from moving forward. So what can you do instead? Start small. Choose a few items that carry deep meaning: a piece of jewelry, a handwritten note, a well-worn flannel shirt. Place them in a special box or display them in a spot that brings peace. Then, when you're ready, begin sorting through other belongings. Ask yourself, does this item bring me comfort or pain? Does it honor their memory or hold me back? Some people find healing through transformation. A favorite shirt can become part of a memorial quilt. A collection of letters can turn into a scrapbook. Or cherished keepsakes can be passed down to children or grandchildren, allowing your spouse's story to live on in meaningful ways. And if well-meaning family members pressure you to clear things out, remind them that grief has no schedule. This is your journey, and the pace is yours to set. The goal isn't to erase the past, it's to create space for life in the present. Because healing doesn't mean forgetting, it means learning how to carry the love forward, gently and intentionally. 4. Don't neglect your health. You still matter. Just as emotional clutter can weigh you down, neglecting your physical health can quietly take a toll in the background. After a spouse passes away, many people unintentionally let go of the daily routines that once kept them grounded. Meals, movement, even medical appointments. In the depths of grief, your own well-being might feel like the least important thing in the world. But it's not. James, an 81-year-old man who had just lost his wife, is a quiet reminder of this truth. He stopped cooking, skipped meals, and rarely left the house. "What's the point?" he told his daughter. He wasn't hungry, he wasn't sleeping well, and day by day, he grew weaker, not just emotionally, but physically. It wasn't until his daughter encouraged him to start with something simple. A glass of water in the morning, a light breakfast, a short walk, that his energy slowly returned. As his strength improved, so did his ability to process his grief. The mind and body are deeply connected. Grief doesn't just live in your heart. It lives in your bones, your gut, your nervous system. And when you stop caring for your body, grief becomes heavier to carry. Studies show that widows and widowers are at greater risk for heart issues, sleep disorders, weakened immune function, and even cognitive decline. That's why caring for yourself isn't a betrayal. It's an act of resilience. You can start small. Prepare a simple, nourishing meal, even if you don't have an appetite. Step outside for a few minutes of fresh air. Set a bedtime and try to stick with it. These actions may feel insignificant at first, but they add up. They anchor you in the present and remind your body and your heart that you're still here. And don't forget your regular medical care. Many people put off doctor visits because grief feels all-consuming. But this is when your health matters most. Keep your appointments, take your medications, and ask for help if you need it. That includes your emotional health. If the sadness feels overwhelming or unshakable, consider speaking with a counselor or joining a support group. You are not weak for needing support. You are wise for seeking it. Taking care of yourself doesn't mean you're moving on too fast. It means you're giving yourself the strength to keep going. One day, one breath, one small choice at a time. 5. Don't rush into a new relationship. Give your heart time. As you begin to regain some sense of rhythm, rebuilding your routines, caring for your body, and slowly re-engaging with life. There may come a new kind of ache, loneliness. The silence at the dinner table, the empty side of the bed, the absence of someone who knew your thoughts before you spoke them. It's no wonder that many people, in the early months of grief, feel drawn toward companionship. That longing is real. But when acted on too soon, it can lead to more confusion and pain than comfort. Take Barbara, 72. who had been married for nearly 50 years. Just a few months after her husband passed, a friend introduced her to someone new. The attention felt reassuring. The distraction from grief was welcome. They began spending more and more time together. But as the relationship moved quickly, Barbara started to feel overwhelmed. It wasn't that the man was unkind, it was that she hadn't yet processed her loss. She hadn't rediscovered who she was on her own. And soon, instead of feeling comforted, she felt trapped. In the end, she had to step back and admit to herself she wasn't ready. What Barbara experienced is more common than many realize. Grief can create a deep emotional void, and it's tempting to fill that space with someone new. But without giving yourself the time to heal, new relationships can become a way to avoid pain rather than truly share life. That leads to unmet expectations, comparisons with the past, and even guilt, feelings that don't make space for real connection. This doesn't mean you must remain alone forever. Many people find love again, and that love can be beautiful, healing, and deeply meaningful. But the healthiest relationships begin not from desperation, but from wholeness, from a place of peace, not panic. So give yourself permission to wait. Use this time to rediscover your independence, to reflect on what you truly want in the next chapter of your life. Talk to friends, seek support, and listen to your instincts. And if someone enters your life and begins pressuring you to move too fast, to make financial decisions, or to distance yourself from loved ones, consider it a red flag. You're not betraying your late spouse by living again, but you honor their memory best by doing it with clarity, self-respect, and the patience to let something real grow, only when you're truly ready. 6. Don't say yes to everything. Protect your energy and boundaries. As you slowly navigate life after loss, you may find yourself surrounded by well-meaning people, family, friends, community members, all offering advice, invitations, and expectations. They may encourage you to attend events, get involved, make decisions, or keep busy. And because you don't want to let anyone down, or because you feel guilty for saying no, you begin to agree. You say yes when you're exhausted. You go along when you're not ready. And little by little, your energy fades again. This quiet pattern is common among those grieving. It often comes from a place of love, but also from fear. Fear of seeming selfish, of being alone, or of disappointing others. But in reality, constantly saying yes when your heart is saying no can deepen your emotional exhaustion and pull you further away from what you truly need. Imagine a woman who, after her husband's passing, felt she had to attend every family dinner, accept every request from her children, and help out at church, even when all she wanted was a quiet evening at home. She told herself, "They've lost him too. I should be strong." But inside, she was unraveling, stretched thin, disconnected from her own grief, and afraid to admit that she needed rest. What she, and so many others, needed was permission. Permission to rest, to pause, to say no. Grief is not a time to people-please. It's a time to listen inward. You're allowed to decline invitations, delay decisions, and ask for space without apology. You don't owe anyone your energy when that energy is already being spent just trying to get through the day. Of course, some people may not understand. They may interpret your silence as distance or your boundaries as rejection. But those who truly care will respect your need to move at your own pace. So before you say yes, pause. Ask yourself, am I doing this out of love or out of guilt? Will this give me strength or drain what little I have left? Your time, your energy, and your healing are sacred. Guard them. In a world that constantly asks for more, choosing to do less, intentionally, gently, and with care, is an act of courage. Saying no isn't closing a door on others. It's opening a door for yourself. Losing a spouse changes everything, but how you move forward matters just as much as what you've lost. By saying no to the things that quietly drain your strength, rushing decisions, isolation, neglecting health, emotional distractions, or guilt-driven obligations, you give yourself the space to truly heal. Grief has no timeline, no rules, and no shortcuts. But with time, self-compassion, and clear boundaries, you can rebuild a life that honors both your past and your future. This isn't about forgetting. It's about continuing, with love still in your heart and peace gradually finding its way back in. Which of these 6 insights spoke to your heart the most? Let us know in the comments. Your voice matters. If this video helped you, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need support today. Every interaction helps us keep creating content that informs and uplifts.